Prepare, respond, survive. When seconds count, train with the best. Fire facilities, custom steel towers built for real-world fire training. Be ready, be resilient.
Fire Service Data and Tech Talk. Hey everybody, it's Eddie Buchanan with Fire Engineering on the Fire Service Data and Tech Talk podcast, coming to you through all the fire engineering social media outlets for October. It is Fire Prevention Month here at the Fire Service and at Fire Engineering. So, that's an important topic, I think. Didn't get a lot of airtime for me when I was coming up as a young firefighter and through the ranks. It's funny that fire prevention was kind of this thing down the hall, right? It was like down at the end of the hall. We don't know what they did. They had their own thing. There was like a glass door we used to joke about. I think they still have it. Where that's what I don't know what they do down there. And when I took the Basic Fire Academy back in the day, you had a chapter on fire prevention, but that's about it. And you studied for the test, and that's really all you ever thought about. So it's interesting to see now, years later, decades later, my opinion and attitude towards fire prevention has changed dramatically, right? So, for example, one of my pet peeves in life is residential sprinklers. With the technology that we have today in the fire service, it's crazy to me that we're not all kind of out really ringing the bell for something as simple as residential sprinklers. There's nothing faster than that. When we talk about fast water, you're not going to beat that water. That water's on the fire before you got up off the couch or out to bed. So, it's that technology exists, and it's crazy that we're not paying attention to it. So I thought it would be fun for the Fire Prevention Month to, get some friends on the show to talk about data that might be available to us. How can we leverage things we might could learn from fire inspections, the technology in buildings that could inform us about what tactics we might employ with the building. There's lots of information that's out there that we could benefit from that we maybe haven't thought about. So, if you want to make an aggressive fire attack, residential sprinklers is the way to go to me. But, we could discuss that another day. But this month on my show, I went out and grabbed a couple of my best friends when it comes to the topic of fire preventions, inspections, and building technology. And my first guest is Jill Cotton. Jill is a returning champion to the show. Hey, Jill, thanks for coming on. She is the president at iRoll, Inspection Reporting Online, right? Did I say that right?
You did.
All right. So tell everybody, just give everybody a quick, background on who you are, what you do, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again. Super excited, especially for Fire Prevention Month. As you all know, prevention and community risk reduction is definitely a passion of mine. So again, Jill Cotton, president and co-founder here at iRoll. I've been in the industry for well over 20 some years. I started off doing inspections, learning how to fix fire extinguishers, going on those trucks and servicing systems. And so our company was created out of our frustrations as former contractors to specifically address, the ability to connect people to information. And so that's exactly what iRoll does. So when people kind of ask what we do, we are a software as a service that provides web-based prevention and community risk reduction solutions to the entities that are involved in fire and life safety. So I love saying, again, iRoll is really about connecting people. It's delivering data so we can make informed decisions. So again, super excited to be here and excited for this conversation.
Well, thank you for coming on. And like I said, we get to work together quite a bit out on the conference circuit and all that. So I really appreciate you taking the time
thanks.
To be with us. And my next guest is a FDIC fire engineering icon, my friend Jack Murphy. Jack's like, what are you talking about?
I think Jack I'm excited to be with Jack.
Jack is he has been involved in fire prevention, building codes, all the things. Chairman of the Fire and Life Safety and Directors Association of Greater New York. He's been named an honorary battalion chief at FDNY, which I don't think they just go handing that out pretty easy. Adjunct professor at John Jay College Fire Science Institute in New York. I think one of the coolest things is Jack wrote the chapter on preincident planning in the Fire Engineering Firefighter 1 and 2 book. So if you've recently been involved with the Basic Academy, you probably read his work there. And then the big prize, the big award, Jack was recognized with the Tom Brennan Lifetime Achievement Award at FDIC some years back. So, and that's like that's the Big Daddy award there. So congratulations on that, Jack. And thank you for coming on the show, man.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and thank you. It's just I am the quiet guy. I like being behind the scenes. I really do. It's just people don't realize how many things we plug up out in the FDIC. I've been involved in it since '96. And it's a smooth running show. It's excellent. It's like 4 shows in one.
Yeah.
And it's a good week. So, but writing, I've been writing for fire engineering when my first article got rejected by Tom Brennan. All right. The same article when Manning came in, he accepted it. That started me down the path. So I've been writing since early '90s. All right.
Yeah.
I co-authored a book with Jim Tidwell out of Fort Worth on firefighters safety in green buildings. Co-authored the recent one behind me is the high rise book with Jerry Tracy. All right. It was a love fest to do that. It took 7 years to put that book together. 7, and I hate to say it, but thank God for COVID.
Right. Lock in a room, make it right.
2 hours on the phone, then go to work. So in this book here, it's more than just the fire service. It's for property managers, architects, engineers. It tells them a complete story of what we go through. Every one of these buildings, a high-rise building, is a different snowflake. They're all different. They're all unique. You might get a little cookie cutter with a residential, but when you're dealing with office buildings, it's off the chart. The other thing we talked about in this book, what I call ground scrapers, ones that go out. All right, large box stores.
I heard you say that the other day, and that was the moment I went, I'll get Jack on the show.
It's so true, though. It's so true.
But some of them, I live in a building, 1847, an old mill. Mm-hmm. One side of the wing is 761 feet. Put that in the air. And it is a challenge. And not only that, is that we're dealing with this lightweight construction. All right. Residentials, another ground scraper. They go for 400 or 500 feet. They're a totally different animal than what I call type 4, build up. So been involved a lot with codes. And my biggest thing now, I sit on strategy 5, which is, we heard CRR, and I talked about this with Jill last week, community risk reduction, a new word for fire prevention and education. Well, we're trying to push forward FRR, firefighter risk reduction. We need companies, and I don't care how you get the information, when you go through prevention or anybody, you need to get into these buildings. Start with your target buildings. Yep. You don't know anything about the building when you show up. So my forte that I'm throwing out to everyone who writes a leadership book, do you ever talk about battle plans and have building intelligence? Basically, no. So that's my push forward, until they put me in the grave.
And you mentioned, Jack, you have a gig now you do as well with technology related to buildings, right?
Well, let me give you a little history there. After 9/11, I'm getting phone calls. What's in the building? For all the high-rise people I have. We couldn't, so we pulled people together. And I'm getting a phone call now that they found some victims in a stairwell. They have a blueprint. It says stairs, like numerical stairs. Well, over the years, we changed that in the city. They're letters. So before the satellite get up to pinpoint everybody, I had to call a retired battalion chief, Larry Burns. And Larry's the famous guy in the French film who comes in, puts the belt cap on, and says, "Stick with me, kid, let's go." So talk to him. He comes back in again. He has the staircases. Well, with that, we about 7 of us, 5 firefighters and 2 fire protection engineers, developed a building information card. New York City didn't have the capability, all right, with a SIDS program. And that's a limited access. It's all coded stuff. All right. We put password cards in the building. From that, we went across the country. It's in the IBC. It's in the IFC. It's in NFPA 1620, which I sat on the committee for writing pre-incident planning. It's in the ISO. We connected all the dots together. My problem is, and I told Jill, we're still doing this. Yeah. We still have things. Oh, like you said, it's down the hall, prevention. No, it's not.
it's not.
Prevention
Yeah.
is good. Don't get me wrong, but this is for us.
Yeah.
You can't keep going into these buildings with no knowledge. It's not the time. And particularly, here's where your battle space is in a high rise. It's a stairwell. It's your battle space. You're limited to 2 stairs. That's it. In a building outside, you can go all sides A, B, C, and D. But here you can't. Now take that and put it in a big building that's groundscraper. What aisles are the flammable liquids in? Where are the exits in the building? You can't see an exit sign in those buildings. Right, Jill? You look at that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And something that I love and value.
The signs above the door, which I like, but I need a bigger sign in that aisle with arrows.
Right.
Common sense. So what we're trying to do is working with Strategy 5 is get us more involved. And let me just leave you with this. The fire departments, I have over 28,000 firefighters. If you're a small department, you're allowed 4 votes. If you're a big metro, 12 votes. We're all relying on the National State Fire Marshals, the IFF, National Volunteers, and if I'm probably missing somebody else, but they all have 1 vote. I'm sitting on over hundreds of thousands of votes. And guess what? We're getting beat up in the code development. Beat up. Mm-hmm. They're not listening to us anymore.
Yeah.
We've been broadcasting about sprinklers, a full 13 sprinkler in these lightweight wood construction buildings. Really. And they keep annoying us. But in the last fire that I had in Bergen County, I just left as coordinator. I get an interview, me and Glenn Corbett. The one building went down fully occupied. First of all, it went down in 2000 when it was going up. All right. So it goes down, and I'm standing there, and I'm pointing to the building, to the reporter. See that building there? We saved that building. That's the survivor building. Every time they come out after these fires, we meet minimum code, but it's not what we're telling you. Why is that individual now putting sprinklers in the attic?
Yeah.
Because they have egg on their face. And when they rebuilt that, they put everything in that the town asked for. Ed, full 13, all right? A firewall from the foundation up, cinder block, with a parapet going through, labeled all the buildings around the whole thing. But they did one thing I wasn't too happy about. In the back of the building, in side C, is a courtyard. We can't access this. They left 2 35-foot ground ladders for us. Really? Who's practicing with them? You see what I'm saying? They only fixed that there, Ed, but this problem is all over the United States. And here's the number I have I have is a loose number, Jill. Over 97 of these things have gone up, and still they're not doing the right thing. Still. I hate to say it. These are future tombstones of America.
All right, go, Jill. I've seen you.
I mean, this is, again, why I could sit and have a conversation with Jack for hours. So you said a few things that really kind of, again, are this theme. Number one, people changing after tragedy, right? And that's what, unfortunately, prevention is. We are reacting to a response. And you already said it as well. Codes are a minimum. Many of us are just doing the bare minimum of what's required. And you also said, right, our voices aren't being heard when it comes to codes and standards. And if you are listening to anything that Jim Hawley from NFPA or Shane Ray, NFSA, these organizations are talking about, it's we need more of our voices when it comes to codes and standards, because if we don't speak up as experts in, fire and life safety, as engineers, as fire marshals, fire chiefs, ops chiefs, somebody else is going to get in there and we're not going to like that outcome, right? And so something I said earlier today on another webinar that I was on was, listen, it is 2025. We now have the technology that allows people to go directly to the sources of the information that they need, especially if they don't have it or they can't get it, right? Maybe we're a fire department that's limited in capital or human resources. Maybe we know there's a risk, but we don't have all the data, but we need to go get it. How do you get that? You go to the sources. And I think where Jack and I align on this is, again, especially I'll use a high rise for an example. I think, Jack, I just saw today, and I should have tagged you, but I think I saw that there was another fire in a high rise in Chicago, right? So yet another fire. that could have been prevented. You want to talk about residential sprinklers. Again, we could go down that path. But how in today's day and age do we not have an understanding of what is going on in a building, especially when we know where our high risk, high hazard buildings are? And if all we need to do is collaborate with that property owner, then we need to provide them the education and the tools of what we're looking for, right? And I think that's still a gap that we're missing in prevention. And, we talk again about community risk reduction. This is where I might have a little difference in thought process, right? Community risk reduction is not replacing prevention. It's not a department. It's not a person, and it's not an event. What it is, especially for our ops folks out there, right? These are the ones who really should be driving community risk reduction. CRR is the ability for us to identify and prioritize our own local risks. What is happening in our backyard that we can be proactive about, whether that's using data, whether that's partnerships, right? Collaborating with people. So it is almost the opposite of prevention because it's allowing us to take action using strategies, right? And so when you combine that with operations, with prevention, with EMS, that's a totally different, set of information that we have and the ability to pivot where our risks are. And codes and standards is probably one of the best examples where we have control, right? So many other things are out of our control when it comes to fires and emergency, but not codes and standards, right? And that's, again, where, I'm kind of just listening to Jack talk and I get excited about these things because the solutions exist, right? The people and the processes and the technology definitely exist.
How do I get operations to get more interested and involved in these topics? I mean,
go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. No, go you. I'm going to let you go on this one. I think we're going to agree on this, but I'm going to let you start, Jack.
It's changing.
You know how it is, man.
It's
not my job, right? Yeah. That's not my job.
It's changing the word. And we've been at this since Brandon. Know your enemy, know the building.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We have. And I sat on the 1620 committee. I think I mentioned that before. And let me just, before I go into that, I sat on the high-rise committee at the NFPA. It was an advisory board. Before we left, we pushed down to NFPA 1 and 101, all existing high-rise buildings shall be sprinkled. All right. So someone's got to pick that up. We know where it's going. All right. Coming back to this is that pre-planning. They go down the hall, like you said, Ed, that's prevention. That's the people looking at building plans. No, it's not. It isn't. It's you. It's your response district. What do you know about the building? And I'm trying to change the word. We're doing recon. It's a survey. We're doing recon on the building to gather intelligence and put it down in what I call a legacy database. I took the building information card that was passive, and it's now electronic. You could put all the data in and it builds itself. Go into that. And I went to the NFPA at the time, not the NFPA, the NFA. Bill Shoulders was teaching out of Philadelphia. He was teaching command class. And he's telling me that we were talking about pre-incident planning. And I said, Bill, I'm trying to get that turned around to recon and intel. All right. And he came up with, he said QAPs. And I developed what I call, how do I get this information that's not overwhelming? What do I need going out the door every time? I have my size up before I even left the place. When I get there, I give the conditions report. Then when it is a job or something, then you get the rest. You get fire protection systems. How about threats to the building in your response? In New York City, I might have a 10,000 gallon oil tank in the basement. All right.
So you bring up a good point, Jack. We don't tend to have a war fighting mentality when it comes to firefighting. Right. So any war fighter will tell you they have pretty good intel going into a situation. Particularly special forces. They planned that thing to the nth degree. They know every turn, every rock.
They do. Yeah.
And so it's interesting that has not translated or made its way into the firefighting mentality.
In my lectures, I show a picture of the SEALs coming off the beach.
Yeah.
And pointed out, I got this from Anthony, what's his last name? Out of California. Just wrote the command book. I'm sorry.
Castros.
And he said, well, the Marine, they know everything before they go. Now I show next picture of 5 firefighters with hose packs on it going into the building. All they say is, let's go. That's it. They have no plan at all. My whole idea here is that my father's a World War II vet, spent 36 years on the job. Told you about fire, fire suppression, all this other stuff. Good stuff. Never, when he left, all that knowledge went out the door. Like Jill and I are trying to create a legacy database. You would keep reinventing the wheel. All right. And I don't want to see this going down the road at the end, recommendation on a line of duty day. All right. So it's crazy, but we're working towards that. I'm very positive towards doing this. I won't give up. I really won't. And I'm just trying to push that out there. Next week, I'm in Houston with Mike Gagliano, Fire in the Sky, and I'll be talking about that. I'm talking about, my subject is beyond high rise. How would you like to show up to 20 buildings all interconnected as a complex? Where do you start? And you're going in there with nothing? So the whole idea is break that down and push it out, what I call, how do I say, not overbearing, QAP1, QAP2, QAP3. That's it. And you can do that. On the QAP1 side, electronically, I can tell when the sprinklers are out in the building. It's being renovated.
You have the technology, right?
Yes.
I mean, the technology, like we said, exists. And
before I forget, Ed, you told me to say, my website, if you just go on, write down smartbuildingcard.com. All right. I'm willing to work with any fire department at a reasonable rate to get this out there.
I love that.
And let's just talk about your target buildings. And don't tell me you don't have time. I'm sorry. And you'll have time when you have to pay for the line of duty death later.
So that's one of the things I think, particularly the more seasoned generation might struggle with. Like for me, all of my pre-planned information was basically in a binder that was over the shoulder. You had to reach back, and seldom did we. We're too busy doing other things, right? So how has technology evolved now that the information can be, I think the secret here is to give me the information I need when I need it without giving me a bunch of crap I don't need.
Yeah.
Right. To get it to me pretty seamlessly. So Jill, what are you seeing with the technology these days that could help with such things?
Well, again, I'm going to go back. You asked a question too about, how do we get ops folks to buy into prevention and community risk reduction? Listen, if you're following the trends, community risk reduction is going to be what changes how well your department is responding, period. But it's not just response, it's having the awareness, right? So you want to talk about false alarms. What about frequent flyers? That absolutely directly impacts operations. And so, my kind of, I'm starting to teach us, to the ops folks is really understand more. I think it's just not understanding what community risk reduction is, but more so you want to talk about the technology. And something that I loved when I saw Jack's program, right? It's not super difficult. There are platforms out there and people and processes that it's so straightforward, but you're right. It does take a little bit of time. That little bit of time is going to save you lives. That little bit of time is going to protect property and communities. And so what we're seeing from a technology standpoint, right? Again, you're seeing things like geospatial, GIS, 3D imagery. But let's just be very honest. Most fire departments across the country aren't staffed with people who understand or have, a data specialist. There are sometimes 1-2 people shows, right? And so they have to wear a lot of different hats. And so just them taking the moment to see what is out there to help them benefit and streamline workflows will change what they know. And going back to Jack's point, it's, how do you not want to prepare yourself for that risk if and when it occurs? Is it always going to take time from the beginning to build a database, to build information? Of course it is. But that's where collaboration comes into play. That's where partnerships in your community comes into play, whether that's through a tech partner, whether that's literally picking up the phone and saying, hey, we're seeing, a lot of falls in, a senior living facility. Maybe we should collaborate with, those folks and talk about what's happening in that building. What do we know about the building? What do we know about the people in that building? And have that information at hand for, again, if and when there is another call there, right? So, it's doable is what I'm saying. It's doable and it's affordable. Sometimes there's programs out there that aren't even costing the fire department anything to implement. And honestly, iRoll is one of those. A majority of our programs are at no cost to code enforcers. And then we can collaborate, right, with platforms like with Jack is doing, and again, I'm going to, promote what he's done quite a bit. It's so straightforward, but it is very robust, right? But the other thing I love about it is he's getting the building owner involved in that process, right? And that I think is something that we're still missing, is the people aspect of how we can form those partnerships for prevention and community risk reduction.
The thing is that we all know that a lot of bigger jobs are, after midnight, things like that, when there's nobody there. But if I have I'm helping the building owner out too. The more I know about the building, the quicker I get it back to you. All right. That's it. But I need to know things inside the building more, particularly utility systems in buildings where everybody wants to shut off the main. Well, how about going in a hospital? You can't shut off mains. You have to isolate to the lowest point.
You can, but you'd have a different problem.
Or how about just knowing, how do we get in the building?
Yeah, how do you get? Well,
how do you get in the building?
I inherited this complex 20 blocks long. The fire department showed up on the Upper East Side on 70th Street. The security guard go out and go 2 blocks out and make a left. When we get in there, we put in 5 zones. I gave you a cluster of buildings. Based on that, New York City couldn't take the data I had. So I told the 10th Battalion, I'm putting external SIDs in the box when you show up. This is what these 5 buildings have, more information. All right. So the whole idea is that we have all these problems and we're not fixing it. And we keep putting it off and we keep making excuses. The worst thing for me is having these events, because we just had an event up here in a nursing home. 9 people died, 10 people died. Really? Well, it was a bad thing. Jill, we talked about this. The sprinkler system was defective. The Omega heads were defective. We recalled them in 1988. Okay, so those are things where you share that across the line. This stuff, seeing that we see what Jill collects and I collect, and just put that together, make it a little bit more easier. But the thing here was that the fire companies don't understand. You're the IC in this building. I don't care where you are. And everything isn't going right. You're looking for alternative strategies and tactics based on your building knowledge. The more you know about the inside of that building, the better those S&Ps are trying to get this thing together. All right. It's just there. It's in plain sight for all of them. All right. So I continue to have this conversation, and my buzz line, right, Ed? K by G, know before you go. K by G. It isn't a hard thing. And all those young techie people out there, this is right up your alley. I'm still playing with Mr. Potato Head.
Hey, it was a good toy.
All right. So and I'm on the show, I've had a couple of different guests on. I'm thinking of Greensboro Fire down in North Carolina. They did some interesting things where they made their own system, right? That they took what they had and they configured it in such a way that they were able to present information, pre-planned information. Actually won some awards for it. They did a really good job with it. That have done that. But what if I'm a lieutenant in a fire department, middle America, someplace that maybe we don't have a data team, we don't have these resources. Like, how do I start? Like, it's if you're a fire chief in here, then that's a different conversation. If you stumbled into this discussion, you want to be allocating resources to these tasks. If you're a lieutenant, though, what do you do? Like, my audience tends to be a little more ops kind of based. So, what advice do you have for those lieutenants that are they don't have necessarily the tech support, but what could they do? How could they make something better? Like, I mean, of course, the first thing I would tell anybody is get out and go see. That's first thing. Get out to Firehouse and go see some stuff. Go have some discussions at the building about how you would fight a fire in that building.
Yeah.
Maybe get some ice cream while you're out, but still go get out and go do that.
About
right?
ice cream, that's my weakness, really.
So, what would you? What's your advice, both of you? I'd be curious to see what advice you would give that officer on how to approach that.
I think there's two things to this. One, you already said it. My first advice is get out there, get out and see what's out there. Take the time, walk in the buildings. But the other thing is, and I literally heard this the other day. Somebody says, well, we don't have the data. I don't know where the data exists. Yes, you do. It exists everywhere. It exists on the piece of paper when you took notes. It exists on a log that you might have. It may exist in cabinets behind you, especially if, again, you're not super techie yet. Yeah. It's there. You just have to find that starting point. So don't let it get overwhelming, right? You can start in one spot. So, obviously where you determine that might be, again, where you either don't have a lot of data or you just need to put that data together. So I always say the data exists and there's free data out there, right? I mean, your demographics, you can look at that and you can look online and just find the demographics, so start by getting out, start by looking really at what you already have, and then kind of make that assessment from there. But there's no doubt that your data does exist, and it is definitely getting out. Would be my first two starting points before I would, go my third route, which I know Jack wants to chime in. So
my thing is pick out 20 target buildings. If you don't have that many, pick out 10. I don't care what it is. Pick out a number. Take a look at what you want to collect first. For me, what do I need going out the door? That's your size up. Just do that. And you tackle what I have. I have a total of 11 boxes, one at a time. How's that? Just get the data. Now, every time you go into the building, split your team up a little. I call new eyes. I can't catch everything. I did a job in Teaneck at a hospital, and there was a machine that you put your hands in to keep it sanitary, to put drugs in bottles, blah, blah, blah. And I said to them, where's the shutoff for this? They didn't know. I said, well, what if I'm stuck in there? My hands go in there. I'm in a sleeve, but now I'm stuck because it pinned me. The machine broke. So we finally discovered downstairs that's where the shutoff was. So on, I think the third or the fourth tour I was down there, guy turns around and goes, what's that door up there? Wow, a full-size door. Full-size door with a fixed ladder. No one knew where it was. I said to the engineer, what is that? Oh, come with me. We had to go outside all the way around and come through a catwalk system, like a dead end, a confined space. And there's the door. I said, we want to mark the door on this side, no stairs. How's that? So you need to take that. I can't collect everything. I've gone into buildings, and come back to, oh, I missed that. I got this. Yeah. Just be patient. You need to start somewhere to build a database. We're all rushing into artificial intelligence. We don't have actual intelligence. So where are you going with artificial intelligence? It needs a foundation. All right, we're going to get there, but you didn't even build a foundation yet.
Well, what resources might be common in any given city? Like, should I go to the building? Is there someplace I could go where
CAD,
local government?
I mean, goodness that they don't want to share. We all know the jokes about CAD, right? But I literally had a phone call today, and we're talking about a boundary map, and the chief was like, listen, we're, such a small station. We don't have access to GIS. I said, yes, you do. Call your dispatch, right? Your dispatch definitely has something. Go to your building department. They have some information about the buildings in your jurisdiction. And again, what are you doing then? You're collaborating. You're building those relationships to get information. And something you both said and I think it's really important since it is Fire Prevention Month, right? Let's start giving credit where credit is due. Your fire inspectors, your fire marshals, the ones that are on the ground going in and out of these buildings, they are some of the best leaders that we have throughout the entire organization. They are seeing things from every aspect, from, suppression to ops. They know what is going on. They just may not have, again, the full resources, whether human or capital or tools like technology, to put it all in one spot. But they are, again, use those people to your advantage. Ask them what they're seeing to start building, like what Jack said, the know before you go, right? They definitely need these tools and this information to pass that along. So again, I think that's really important.
Yeah. And if you have a large box store and you go outside and you'll see 8 to 10 OS and Y valves, zone 1 to 10. Excuse me, my wife's Italian. What does that mean? What's 1? What's 10? What is it covering? What aisle is it? You know what I'm saying? And some of these jobs got away on them too, and they burnt the building to the ground.
Yeah, I remember there was a case or two where there was error by the fire department, apparently, in how to operate it.
Right. So the whole idea is that you are preparing yourself to go to war all the time. These battle spaces are unique, all of them. All right. My thing with the late Bill Guston, we had a conversation about the lightweight buildings. When you have bells and smells, you can't find it. You better start evacuating. This is not a building where you go, oh, I think I'm going to get it. It's the voids are all over the place. You can go up, down, sideways, everything. It's just bad.
Yeah. Well, and again, going back to something you said, what if we don't know where to start, or what if it's just me in the department? I'm going to go back to something that we all have kind of said just differently, is that, go directly to the source. What information are you missing or do you need in order to reduce that risk? Whether, that's from a residential, whether that's from, a commercial perspective. There are other people who are in and out of your buildings just as much as you are. And Jack, you brought up, I know you and I went into, I got like really heated about the recent, senior living facility. And I said, how in today's day and age did not a single person know about the sprinklers? How does that happen? So that's something, especially from a contractor perspective. Contractors, literally, their business is built off of the fire code. So we can't get upset, or you can't, fight, if you will, right, when people want to enforce that code. When fire departments want to receive this information, when they want to collaborate, when they're setting a standard for how information comes in so they can prepare, so they can have the awareness of what's going on, we can't go all of a sudden, well, I don't want to share that information. It's not yours to not share, right? In fact, you should want to collaborate with those who enforce the code, because they're the ones that are driving your business. Right. So again, I think this also comes down to, where are those risks? What do you know and what do you not know? So we could have a whole different discussion about that. But
Ed, in early November, I won't say where, but Chief Tracy and I are doing a large metro area fire department. We're doing 4 days, 2 sessions each of all their chiefs on high-rise buildings. Mm-hmm. And I said to the chief of training, Chief, go into the book, pick out what you want us to talk about. Guess what the first subject they sent me? Building and fire codes. We don't know too much about it. Yeah. I'm serious. And you need to know more. In the codes and everything, we're trying to build stronger codes without going excessive for us, to protect us on the job, all right? And to protect the occupants. That's where it starts. It starts out there nationally. Then it trickles down to the states. They can pick and choose from the national level. Then it goes down to large metro areas. When they came into New York City, we compared the building code and the fire code in 2 columns. The great Jim Tidwell gave it to us. And we selected some of the things that were more rigid, because I deal with density issues. I'm not reducing passive fire protection on some things. So you have to see what works for you. But the idea now is that on the code side, we're being threatened because special interest groups are bypassing what we set up. You asked us to put the codes together in the mid 90s. We had 3 legacy codes. You asked to put that together for one national code. And you know what the driving force with that was for? To put the codes together?
No.
It was places like McDonald's, Burger King, and everything going from California, trying to make their way across the New York State, and everybody's got something different.
Yeah.
All right. So that was there. Now you want to take that apart and go back to the local level? No. The game is the national level.
Yeah.
How do we get it? How do I get the firefighters? Like, how does this get the attention that it deserves and needs? We're just not, it's just not on the firefighters' radar.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not something I don't even know that myself, just talking about me, I would have to like dig around and do a little digging even to go where to look first.
Yeah.
Like how do I get engaged in this discussion?
Yeah, you have to shift the mindset, right? It's definitely a mindset, and it definitely comes, from the top, bottom, left, right, in between. Firefighters, I mean, even myself is like, I can't specifically cite every single code. I'm not a Greg Rogers or a Mike O'Brien or a Robert Marshall or a Jack Murphy. Right? Like, there's some people I literally can call and say, what specific, what code is this? And it's 102.4. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. It's just understanding why the codes are important and how they protect people everywhere and properties everywhere. And I think, honestly, NFPA did a really great job of releasing their newest campaign, right? I think their new campaign was some of the videos they did that, codes are everywhere. No matter what is going on, there's a code for that. What a way to drive home to people, your everyday person walking on the streets, who the last thing they're thinking about is fire and life safety, right? Truly, that's not going to happen to me. Right? That's just not going to happen to me. And I think that they did a really great job of hitting that message home. Like, it absolutely can happen to you. And unless we're paying attention to this, it will happen to you. So I think, though, it is definitely starts with this shifting of this mindset. And I go back to things that are both in and outside of one's control. Again, we can't control, emergencies, car crashes, and things like that. But where we do have some control is in codes and standards. So why not have the processes and the data and the information in place to help us be successful to continually mitigate those risks for, and even if they do occur, at least have a better understanding, like Jack was saying, right? Of knowing, hey, there's a fire in this high rise. I immediately know exactly where everything is in that high rise, the exits, the stairs, what's on each floor, the people that are on those floors. That changes our awareness, and it changes how we go into battle, as you both are saying, right?
In these buildings, residential buildings, let's just do a norm, say 75 feet, 8 feet. Basically, residentials, you get the people out of your apartment, you're trying to shelter in place the rest of them. All right. Now you do that in an office building, 7, 8 stories. All right. Now you take them off the floor, they go down 2 floors and wait for in-building relocation. All right. Now let's go up a little higher. Let's go 30, let's go 40, let's go 80 floors. You're asked to totally evacuate the building now. What do? How do you do it? Are stairs available? Can you use elevators? Hear what I'm saying? You have to know the threat. Then you have to think that far ahead. How I'm going to use these stairs. I'm down to that. In some stairs, they've been more of a hazard for people coming down. In the newest stairs, the handrail against the wall goes out onto the platform. Even in the dark, they know they're on a platform. They feel around the wall, get on the other side. In the older ones, they go with the last step. Now take the middle post on the outer side. There's a post there. You got to take your hand off the handrail and go around, grab again. On the new one, it slides right around. All right. And the things you continue to learn. At the FDIC this year, this gentleman I've dealt with since 9/11, Jake Pauls, all right, an evacuation guru, all right, helped with the 9/11 commission and other things. He throws a slide up there. Went, okay. And I said to him, Jake, you never told me about that. What he said with evacuating the wrong side of the staircase, you should be on the interior side, not on the right hand side and going down the wall. Interior, because we're coming up. Number one. Then when we lay the hose out, we got to throw it around the platform, a big arc. Mm-hmm. It's on the outer side. See, little things that again you got to rethink. And how do I modify that thinking in the building? And in all hazards evacuation, it's an inside threat and outside threat. Look at all the stuff going on now with active shooter, all over the place. And my thing too, and I told Jill, this ain't just for the fire service. This is a PD thing. Totally. You're going in, guns blazing. You don't know anything about this building. Zero. You come up and you put. I go by the school. Oh, they got numbers on all the doors. Yeah, okay. I got 37 doors. What side is 14 on? I don't know. Break it down. A has this many, B, C, D. Narrow it down. Get your thinking going. All right. And I teach them, I taught them a couple of security people and everything. You need to have an understanding of how to get up to the upper floors. Look what just happened in New York. The individual came in, you were with the cop there. You couldn't stop him. Got onto a floor, So there were people that have a timeout room. They locked themselves in. They got a message out by broadcasting it. I'm sorry, we think that the other security guy was the fire director. Couldn't get the message out over the thing. You have to think incidents. And how does that help you? What I said to Jill, when I put this program together, here's a fire silo, here's a PD silo, here's an OEM silo. And the PD can share if they want because they have more sensitive things than I would OEM have. But when you get onto that unified command post, you can open up your silos and everything talks. All right. Everybody knows what's inside the building, where it is and how to go and how to move around. So, when I built this thing, everybody said, oh, it's high rises. No, it's not. I built it for 1 and 2 story buildings for the future groundscrapers too. So you need to adapt what you have in your community.
I was just going to say it's adjustable, right?
Right.
And I love that you just said to like continue to learn because our challenges are definitely changing, right? You think about, the fire prevention, month is about batteries. We're having look in New York, right? One of the largest, I believe the last time I heard Chief speak, right, he was talking about, they're having multiple fires and fatalities due to batteries. What about energy storage systems? You want to talk about another huge, risk factor in areas of the country now. And, our codes, right, are always a little bit behind. Vicki Pritchard of the NFSA said something that just really hit home to me when we were in DC last February. And again, I think I said it earlier, we're operating on the bare minimum. Well, if we know that, why are we not always just going above and beyond what we're doing and what we know? We are now having to wait for code cycles, again, in regards to batteries and ESS and now this whole thing with single stair. But we know better. So we can still put in processes and things in place to help us, adjust to these challenges by what we know, right? And again, that's why I think it's important when you have a good starting point, you can just build onto that, right? But no matter what, like we've all said, you have to find that starting point and go from there. So.
You mentioned Vicki and I mentioned Shane earlier. I would say Vicki Pritchett and Shane Wright are probably some of the most aggressive firefighters I know.
Yeah, amazing.
Because they're way out ahead of you.
Yeah,
they're out fighting before the fire started. So
right. And they're also about accountability, and I think that's another discussion, that you could throw in here, right? It's accountability, and I've heard, the term, well, I don't want to do the fire department's job. Well, that's not what this is. They know who's accountable for what, right? We definitely like the property owner is responsible for.
Yeah.
But again, let's be very realistic. Property owners, when even residents, right? I was never educated on why, an alarm is going to get me out of the house. Nobody has these discussions. Nobody's telling new business owners, oh, the reason you have these systems is XYZ. Again, it's that whole mindset. It's not going to happen to me. So even though it might be their responsibility, there are people who are specifically trained and licensed, right? Again, I go back to contractors to go in a building to service a system to make sure it is functioning, that gap between risk and readiness. But yet you don't want to collaborate. You don't want to inform the code enforcers of what you know, because let's all also be very realistic. They don't just know about the system. They sure as heck know what is actually happening in that building. They know where not to go have lunch. They know where not to sleep at night. So again, it is also finding these common places to share that data. And I think at some level, just have a discussion on what really each person's role is and why collaborating really is what brings the most power to everybody, especially from a first responder perspective.
And even though, I talk about, and I told this to Joe, I want everything to be electronic, but then again, you deal with the frequency issues at times. I like redundancy. If I have a bigger building, I want cards there. All right. And John Jay, when I taught fire safety directors, I said, when the fire department comes in, it's a two-sided card. One is 11 boxes. On the other side, it's the footprint of the building where all the entrances are, elevators and stairs laid out, and on top of verticals. All right. What it is, when you come in, show the card with the building footprint and the verticals. Show that to the fire department. What I need is a 30 to 60 second read of the footprint map. Stair A is to the left, stair B is to the right. Stair A has a standpipe. Stair B is a fire tower. Mm-hmm. Right? Elevators, low, mid, high rise, blah, blah, blah. Now take that out and put it on the big groundscraper, Walmart or something like that. Come into the front door. You have to establish where you are. I deal with multiple entrances. So if I come to the box number at 213 Jefferson Street, I put a big "You Are Here" sign right there on the print. You're here. From there, you could see without even going inside. You're trying to deploy personnel pretty quick, all right, into the building. All right. So the whole idea is that the building owners have to understand that better. This helps them out in the long run also. I mentioned before, the more we know about it, the quicker I get your building back to normal. And now the threats these days are all over the place. So these all hazard threats.
One of the questions I wanted to ask related to codes was, both of your opinions, if I could tell firefighters one issue to look into, what would you say is the most pressing issue related to building codes, fire codes, that firefighters should understand? Like what's the biggest threat to them right now at the moment?
For me, a lot of the buildings are no longer the type 5. A lot of them are hybrids. On the outsides, it says type 4. You come in, I pick on this building and I'm sitting in. I'm in a loft. I told you 761 feet long. So it's heavy timber, but all the walls in between are C-joist. The mezzanines are C-joist. Well, wait, that's not a type 4. All right. Now, when you put the building in, having conversations with the people here, this is only 4 stories. They put what I call the C-joist on top of the roof. I can hear myself walking down the hallway, the hollowness underneath my feet. In this thing, the floors are like rigid. It's heavy. It's 2x6 subfloor, plus a 2-inch oak floor on top of it. You go down there, and the issue there is that, what I'm saying is that all the way down there, you come into this building, the alarms go off, there's no voice system. You don't know where the hell it is. Number one. That's a thing the fire department should look at. The other thing, too, with the cold form steel in a 4-story building, their radios were interfered with because of all the C-joist metal. They had to put a bidirectional cable in. Those are the things that the fire service should look at. These are things out there that we need your interpretation. You don't have to be in the codes. These are my issues coming into the building. And let's take care of them. Someone's got to look at that going down from the planning stages. I just talked to someone the other day, Jamie Hodges. He sits on the planning committee in the city, representing the fire department. He worked his way all the way up to the chairman. Boy, did they have input. Right? You got to get ahead of the curve with everything. So the idea here is that my thing is, you see a dumpster outside, stop the rig, go take a look, see what they're doing.
I think,
Jill, what do you think?
yeah, for me, it's definitely that. But I think number one is the firefighters. We're specifically focusing on firefighters. You know your community, know the dynamics of your community, right? I live out in the middle of the country, right? I don't have any high rises here. We have very small businesses. So you definitely know what the hazards are. So again, it's not you having, to understand every single code. It's knowing where the codes apply and how they're there to protect you and to protect your response, right? And simply knowing when you're going into a building, whether it's a residence or again, a commercial, just knowing what you are about to expect, again, can completely change your response. I mean, look at how many times we have gone into buildings and didn't know, and people didn't come out. And all we needed was just that information, right? And it changes everything. So I would first say, just take a look at the dynamics of your community. What really do you know about your community, and where do the codes apply to your community? I think that's a very good and very simple, starting point especially for firefighters.
And Ed, you hit the nail on the head before. Main Street, USA. All right, here's my town when I was the fire marshal. I have a whole block attached to 3-story buildings, all mercantile on the lower level. All right. The hardware store is the same in building A, all right, with 2 residents above that. Over time, that hardware store in the cellar broke through, and now that hardware store is underneath. All right. 2. All right. From the outside, you don't know that. You can't tell that unless someone has it logged down somewhere. In my paper chase, like you had, I had that on the card. The other thing is communicating to people. I talked to the owner. I said, John, this is bad. I said, I understand you did this. I convinced him, Ed, to sprinkle the basement. And he did it. I convinced him. Just sprinkle the basement. You have 4 open avenues coming up that aren't blocked off at all. At least give us a head start. And he did that. So it's a matter of, like Jill said, these are things that you have to go out and sell yourself. The code says this. It didn't say he had to sprinkle the basement. Not at that time. Later on, it did come out. All basements over certain feet, like 3,000 square feet or something, had to be sprinkled. But before that, it's communicating to people.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the game. It is. You have to be a salesperson. All right. When I went from the public side to the private side, I had to communicate. Well, thank God I learned how to communicate on the public side. My thing was in inspections. I never told you of all the violations you had, the order that I wanted them done. All right. And I communicated with them in my inspection classes for recertification in Jersey. I said, I tell you what, if I come back and nothing's done, John Wayne comes out. I'm a different person. I said, I go by the book now. That's it. It's again, communicate. On the private side, here's an example. It's one of my places, the major hospital. On the OR floors, on the 10th floor, on the other side of the double doors, the store had lockers there, extra supplies for the operating room, anesthesiologist equipment, everything else. I'm trying to get it out of there. And he won't move. I have no place to put it. We got to get it out. Yeah. I got it. I went downstairs to the president, and he knew that if I came to him, I'm at my last wits with these people. I talk myself to death. They won't do it. Okay. He goes, do what you got to do. Call up Vinny. Look, New York City. Vinny, your turn in the hopper. The local company comes down there, the BI company goes up. I go upstairs with who's this stuff? Dr. So-and-so. Get him out here. Blah, 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 blah. Wait a minute, Doc. Oh, wait a minute. Everything here is a $5,000 violation. You have 12 different things here in this corridor. He goes, no, that ain't me. It's him. He's the fire director. So goodbye. See you later. By the end of the day, it was gone. All right. So again, it's a tough job, but you have to communicate. And what I'm saying here with Jill and I are trying to do, we're going to give you more information in your hands ahead of time about these buildings.
And I'm going to take it one above as well and say this is also the reason why we really need to educate, right, our first responders and our firefighters about the importance of data. And there are some fire departments that, and I know, Eddie, you and I think it was actually at Metro Planners, and I want to say, I can't remember what fire department it was, but they were saying how they are specifically talking about how they use data when people are coming into the academy. What a great way, what a great starting point to communicate, to set your standard, to get them thinking a little bit differently. Because at the end of the day, if you want more resources, whether that's better, gear, a bigger and better truck, a yellow truck instead of a red truck, you want more people, you want more technology, you have to start with data, because data and then how you form your story, right, is what you can use when you go out to your community. Whether now you're going to have to modify your story a little bit, but the data stays the same, right? If your data is telling you that we have buildings, right, that are constantly non-compliant, right? Maybe it's the same repeat offenders. Maybe they're missing something. So use that data and flip your story and go and communicate to those building owners, or maybe use it for your board of directors, or maybe use it for your chief to get the things to turn the corner, right? But that data is going to be so important for what you know and what you need and how you start to shape, again, how you're responding to your community. And that definitely includes from a prevention standpoint and from a codes and standards standpoint. But in all honesty, it impacts every aspect of the fire service. And trust me, it took me years to really, understand that as well. I think when we're not taught about it, especially when people, you definitely have people who are going into the fire service to fight fires. But we need to then definitely make sure that we are educating those people on really what the realities are of this industry and where they can really make a difference in understanding, again, codes and standards, data, and what their role is in the department. So there's all these different factors, but it has to start somewhere. And so just educating. And there is misinformation, right? There's misinformation about home sprinklers. And you brought it up, Jack. You want to talk about special interest groups. Look at what they've done to make some of our state fire marshals go from about to implement, home sprinklers to all of a sudden, nope, can't do it. What does that tell you? I mean, really, that can be scary. And that's where more voices.
What gets me, the homeowners will advertise sprinkler system for the lawn.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's why I brought it up. I feel like if the operational firefighters were paying attention to those issues, we might have a different outcome.
Right. How about put it on the table? Give the people an option.
Yeah.
Give them an option, please. I'll go for that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: we're trying to retrofit a high rise. All right. We know that in a high rise, I have a certain story. I have a fire pump. I have a standpipe. All right. Glenn Corbett and I go to the state of New Jersey, work with BOMA, that's the building people, and other real estate people, sit down and have a conversation with them. We're willing to work with you on retrofitting these buildings. Here's our thing. All I want to do is calculate the whole entire floor, square footage. Based on that, we'll calculate how many sprinklers you have, where to go, and all this other stuff. I said, fine, just keep it there. We're not doing anything yet. All I want to do is tap off and sprinkle it down the hallway. All right. And maybe for now, put one head over the door inside. Whether it's a rental or condo or something, then I go in and finish it off. We're willing to work with you. Period. It's doable. Open your minds up, please. Someone said, well, they don't want to sprinkle in Florida because they're one step away from heaven. Most of the seniors. Well, I'm a senior now, and I still want to go. I'm trying to hit 100, Ed.
I've been trying not to burn up my whole life. So it'd be great not to go out that way. At least not until after I've gone.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, we're about out of time. My treadmill listeners are probably wrapping up their cool down by now. So I really do appreciate y'all coming on the show. It's some great information. I think it's a much overlooked aspect of the fire service. Data really turns into operational intelligence or battle intelligence, really. And we really need to get that mindset of fire service. So I really do appreciate both of you taking the time to be on the show and coming on for Fire Prevention Month too. That's really,
Yeah.
really awesome. So thank you. And that is a wrap for this episode of the Fire Service Data and Tech Talk podcast on fire engineering. You can find us on all the social media outlets that there are. We distribute all over the place. And if you've got some feedback, we've got the Fire Service Data and Tech Talk page on Facebook. You can hit me on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now at Data Tech Talk. And you can find me on LinkedIn also. I'm always there. So hope everybody has a great Fire Prevention Month, and we'll see you next time.
Prepare, respond, survive. When seconds count, train with the best. Fire facilities, custom steel towers built for real-world fire training. Be ready, be resilient.
Fire Service Data and Tech Talk.